weekly Chaburah. Today's lecture is always sponsored by Chazaq, a tremendous organization that I've been zocheh to work for a few years now. Incredible what we do, what they do regarding just everything: public school, family, Taharat Mishpacha, Shalom Bayis, lectures, chesed that we do. It's unbelievable what the organization does. So I have to give a kursa toiv to Chazaq for honoring, and sponsoring this event, as well as Torah Anytime for posting our Chaburah. Anyway, this week's Parsha, Parsha's Terumah, is the Parsha that comes after Mishpatim, which dealt with certain laws, and Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to Shemayim, and he brings down the Torah, the complete Torah. And this week's Parsha talks about Terumah, talks about giving from ourselves, donating, but donating to what? Donating to the building of the Mishkan. So in next week's Parsha Tetzaveh, it talks about the big day Kuhuna, the clothing of the Kohen Gadol, of the Kohanim. And in this week's Parsha talks about the Kalim of the Mishkan, as well as the Mishkan, of course. So the Parsha begins, Vayidarba Hashem al Moshe Leima. Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, Darba el Bnei Yisrael, speak unto the Bnei Yisrael, V'yikhu li Terumah, and take unto me Terumah, which means a portion. If Shamshon Raphael Hirsch actually says that there is no actual translation for the word Terumah, because many Hebrew words are actually not translated correctly in English, because there's a lot of depth in the word, in the shorish of the word. So you can't just translate it. There's a shorish in the word. And the shorish of the word of Terumah, he says, comes from the word rom, which means to uplift. That you uplift yourself by giving donations to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, Darba b'nei Yisrael v'yikhu li Terumah, take on from me a portion, a collection. Me'ez kol ish asher yidveno libo, from every person that wants to give willingly from his heart. Tikhu Terumah, so you should take the Terumah. In other words, don't just take people, don't force people. We don't want this to be a forced situation. We don't want this to be an appeal in a way. We want people to come willingly without us bothering them, because the building of the Mishkan has to come from the heart. It has to come that every Jew wanted and gave from his own self-understanding and not from being pushed to do it. But there's a famous question here that the Mefarshim have asked. I've seen it so many times. What's the lashon v'yikhu li Terumah, take from me? It should say v'yitnu li Terumah, give onto me, not take. You don't take, you give. If you're giving Terumah, you're not taking, you're giving. So what's the lashon v'yikhu li Terumah, take onto me? So all the Bali, many people like to say on this, that when you give, you get. So when you're really giving, and you're giving from your heart, you're taking for yourself, because you're changing your essence. You're changing who you are as a person. So if you change who you are as a person and uplift yourself, like the word Rome, like that means like from Terumah to uplift yourself, then you're the one benefiting really. Hashem doesn't need our mishkans. Hashem doesn't need anything. He does it for us. He does it that way, for ways for us to get close to Him. Yeah. We're not to know. Yes, back and forth. It's same, correct, beautiful, very nice. Yes, I didn't know that. Now, what was the purpose of this mishkan? What happened here? So after the Chet HaEgel, Moshe Rabbeinu was very worried that Hashem did not completely forgive the Bnei Yisrael. He was worried. He said, how am I going to know that my children, my people, Klal Yisrael, are being forgiven by you, Hashem, completely? So Hashem said, you know what? I want you to build a Mishkan. Klal Yisrael will bring karbanot, they'll bring sacrifices. I will accept those sacrifices, and that way the world will know, not just the Jewish people, not just Klal Yisrael, but the world will know that I forgave them. So the Mishkan really was a vehicle of Hashem's Shekhinah resting, because Hashem is everywhere anyway, but Hashem says a specific portion of special watching over the Shekhinah will be in the Mishkan. But it was really there because of the Chet HaEgel. So the obvious question should be here, where's the Chet HaEgel mentioned? In Parshas Kisisa, next week's Parsha, 2 weeks Parsha, right? What is this? Parshas Terumah, it talks about the Mishkan, but if the Mishkan is only coming for the Chet HaEgel, so why isn't it mentioned after Parshas Kisisa, after the story of the Chet HaEgel? So I saw a very nice answer that we see this many times actually in Shas and in different scenarios of the journeys of Klal Yisrael, the concept of refuah before the Makkah. That Hashem likes to give a refuah before the Makkah. We see that in Purim, that Hashem already had in place the whole story with Mordechai, that he was the one that told the king about Bigsan and Seresh, right? And therefore Hashem was already creating the refuah that he would get rewarded, and the king would love him, and vice versa, and the story would continue. But Hashem had that refuah placed even before the Makkah of Haman wanting to destroy the Jewish people. So we do find that concept in many other places, the refuah, the healing, the medicine before the plague. So in essence, that's why the Mishkan is mentioned here, before the story, to teach you there's a refuah before the Makkah. Okay, now, many different items are being brought for the Mishkan, and one of the items is va'oris elim, adamim, va'oris chashim, different types of wool and linens and scarlet wool, va'atei shitim, and atei shitim, wooden beams are supposed to be brought. So the obvious question is, you're in the desert. Where are there wooden beams? Where did they get wooden beams from? Right? Now Hashem can make a miracle, obviously, and it grows, but it wouldn't have been time enough. But it seems like these beams came from somewhere. So Rashi brings down this question. V'atei shitim, umi'ayin hayu lahem. Where did they have these atei shitim? Now the atei shitim were used for the crushim. They were actually used for the building, the foundation of the base of the Mishkan. The walls were made. They covered it with gold, but it was actually made from crushim. Atei shitim means cedar wood. So where was it? So umi'ayin hayu lahem, where they have it by Midbar in the desert. Pirush Reb Tanchuma. The Medrash Tanchuma says, Yaakov Avinu Safa Beruach HaKodesh. He had a vision in Ruach HaKodesh. Shasidin Yisrael livnos Mishkan b'Midbar. That one day they're going to have to build a Mishkan in the desert. Vehevi Arazim, and he bought cedar wood l'Mitzrayim. V'Natam, and he planted them there again. He replanted them. V'Tziva Levanov, and he commanded his children Litlam to take it imahem with them. Shiyatzu Mitzrayim, when they leave Mitzrayim. So basically, he planted it in Mitzrayim when he got there. He had it before. He replanted it in Mitzrayim. He told Klal Yisrael to take it with them, right? And they should carry it with them. They didn't know why. He didn't explain to them why, the Medrash says. But he said, I want you to do this. So of course they're going to listen because Yaakov told them. But what was the message that Yaakov wanted to convey? Hashem could have made a miracle. If Hashem wanted atei shitim, Hashem would say, listen, make it from atei shitim. I'll have the same way I had the well of Miriam, the man, the Ananiah covered. I'll have trees grow quickly. So I saw beautifully that Yaakov Avinu was teaching Klal Yisrael a very valuable lesson. That the foundation of the Jewish people, the foundations of the Mishkan, the foundations of the places that the Shekhinah can rest, has to come from an earlier source. It has to come from parents, from avos, from the patriarchs. It has to come from the foundation of that led Klal Yisrael to where they are. So that people should understand that your foundation really started years earlier, and we're just continuing with the foundation that we were seen and shown. So therefore, Yaakov Avinu actually felt the need that they should, and also the Mesiras Nefesh, don't get me wrong, there's also a Mesiras Nefesh aspect here, that they're carrying this, they're planting it over there, they're bringing it with them, they're taking it through Mitzrayim, they're carrying it through the desert. All this could have been a question on them also. What are we doing this for? No, we don't question. We do. But the Mesiras Nefesh, that they took it with them, was also the way the foundation of the Mishkan should be built. Not only should it be Nediv Lev, from the giving of the heart, but it should have the element of the forefathers, the element of Yaakov, the element of Mesiras Nefesh, that they brought it already in the building of the Mishkan. Okay. So then there's a famous, I mean every pasuk's famous, but there's a pasuk that people like to talk about. They always like to bring this up, and I looked at all the Mefarshim. Every single Mefarish brought this pasuk down. Pasuk Daled, V'asu li migdash, Hashem said, make for me a migdash, v'shachanti b'socham, and I will rest in you. So the obvious question growing up was, let me hear, what is it?
Why in you, not on?
Correct. It should say, b'socho, I will rest in it, in the Mishkan. But it says no, it says b'socham. That when you build me a Mishkan, I want you to build it so I will rest in you. What does that mean, I will rest in you? You know, when we go to a shul, really Hashem's everywhere, right? And technically, we could just be where we are, and if we have enough inspiration, that would be enough for wherever we are, right? But the answer is, we do need to go to a shul. We do need to go to a Bet Knesset. We do need to go to a Bet Midrash to learn. We need to go and build and go to these places so that we can internalize it for ourselves. So we go to shul, really, is to know that I'm going to shul, I'm davening with a group, and then you bring it home with you and you internalize it. But really, it's all about what's in your heart. The most important element is Hashem says, build me the Mishkan over there, but I want you to internalize it here and bring it into your heart. We must learn to understand that we are small Mishkans ourselves. We are our own sanctuaries. Okay, we have the capabilities, we have the strength, we have the strength from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have Tzelem Elokim in us, we have in us the capabilities. Yes, we need outside help, especially after certain sins that were committed, Chet HaEgels, we need outside sources. But in reality, every human being is a walking Mishkan. Every human being is a walking Bet HaMikdash. V'shachanti b'socham is teaching you that Hashem says, I want to rest in you, build it over there, and then internalize it and bring it into you. So that's the Lashon b'socham, into them, into yourself, and not into it, the Mishkan. Okay. Now, the first keli that's being brought down from the kelim of the Mishkan is the Aron. The Aron. And it says, "V'asu aron atzei shitim." You should make it out of atzei shitim again. If it's a piece of osa zav, and you should cover it with gold. I don't know if you're familiar, but there was a wooden foundation of a box. Inside that was a gold box, and outside that was a gold box. So again, wood. Inside that was a smaller, or according to, it was a nest that it was the same fitting, but inside was the gold, and then outside was gold. What is the message of that? The essence, the Aron symbolized a Talmid Chacham, Torah, right? The Aron was Torah, right? The essence of a Torah, of a Talmid Chacham, of Torah, has to be wood, has to be simple, has to be humble. The center, the essence, has to be wood, simple, humble, and plain. Then in that you have gold, to teach you that you need to be gold also inside. You need to understand your value. You need to understand, yes, you're wood, but you also have value because you're disseminating Torah. You are the spokesperson for Torah. So you need to be gold. And gold on the outside to teach you that your outside should be like your inside. So wood, gold, and gold. Essence, wood, humble, simple, plain. You need to internalize that you are Torah. Therefore, also you need in you the understanding that you're gold. But outside of gold, also to teach you Tocho Kabaro, that your inside should be like your outside, and your outside should be like your inside. You shouldn't be two-faced. Okay? So that's why the Aron was built according to Midrashim in that particular way. We also learn that the badim, the actual poles that were in the Aron, were never removed. There's a pasuk here that says, "You badim lo yisuru mimenu." Never take off the poles of the Aron. Why? So I saw something really beautiful that a lot of times people say, because Aron symbolized Torah. A lot of times the person says, "I gave already. I supported Torah. I supported Torah." The badim, which supported the Aron, are the symbol of the supporters, financial supporters of Torah. Those that actually support Torah. Don't ever say that I gave and I gave. You should always remain. Never say I gave enough. There's never giving enough when it comes to supporting Torah. Therefore, the poles always remain there to teach you you're never done with supporting Torah. Therefore, the Medrash, the Chazal tell us that the badim remained always in the Aron. Okay, now we're going to get to the Kruvim. The Kruvim were actually two childlike angels, if you want to call them that had wings. They had the face of children, but they had wings, and they were facing each other. Pretty much, they were facing each other on the Aron. They were facing each other on the Aron. So the famous question is that people ask, and I saw it also in many different places, why did they have to have the face of children? What was the purpose of face of children? So one of the answers, I'll mention just 2-3 of them. One of the answers I saw was that we should always view ourselves when it comes to Torah that we are like children. That we never just finish learning. We're never done. Just like a child always is learning, a child is always should be learning, we are never finished with learning Torah, and we always have to continuously learn. Always continuously learn. Another thing, we should also view ourselves like a child, humble like a child. Child knows that there are people greater than him. Child hopefully knows that he's just, he's learning from others, right? So we should always view ourselves like children, that we can always learn from others and not just think we know it all. So there's many, and you also have the concept of Ben Torah. You are the son of Torah. What's Ben Torah? Or Talmid of Chacham, Talmid Chacham. You're a student, because you're always a student. You're always a son, which means you have a father to learn from, and you're always a talmid, you're always a student, and you're never just finished learning. You should always view yourself. That's the lashon of talmid chacham, student of wisdom, and also of Torah, and also a son of Torah. So that's the reason why the Kruvim had faces of children, according to many different shatim. Now it mentions that the wings of these Kruvim were facing upward, were up towards the sky, yet they faced each other. There's a machlokas in the Gemara if they always faced each other, if they actually faced the Beit HaMikdash when the Beit HaMikdash was built. But we're not going to go into that now. But most Mefarshim learned that obviously they were always at some point they were always facing each other. When Klal Yisrael was doing Ratzon Hashem, they were facing each other. When they were at peace with each other, they were facing. So even according to a shita in the Gemara Baba Basra, that says that they were facing toward the Beit HaMikdash, there were times the Gemara answers that they were facing each other for sure. So either way, they were both right. So it says the wings were up in the sky, and the facing each other. What's the message? Why were the wings? Because a person should try to strive for loftiness. A person should strive for the heavens. He should strive for it. Therefore, the wings were upward. The wings were upward to strive. You're striving toward Shemayim. Esa einai laharim. I lift up my eyes. I lift up my hands in prayer. What's the lashon of lift it up? Because you're striving for the above, for the heavens. But yet, understand that don't lose track of the Bein Adam Lechaveiro too. Don't lose track of that these two faces were facing each other, which means there was peace among them. And actually Chazaq teach us that when the Beis HaMikdash was about to get destroyed, the faces actually were not facing each other. And after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, they were actually hugging each other to show that there will be a time when we will come back together as a nation, that they were comforting each other. But the concept of facing each other was teaching us that when they faced each other, it was a sign that there was peace among Klal Yisrael. They were ben adam lechaveiro. So the wings to the heavens was teaching you ben adam lamakom, that you should strive for the heights. And yet, the facing each other of the Kruvim was teaching you that what? That there was ben adam lechaveiro, that there was peace among brothers. There were peace among each other. So you need both elements. We discussed it last week. You need both elements to have the complete package, to be that complete Jew, to be that perfect kind of Jew. You need the Bein Adam Lamakom, obviously, and obviously the Bein Adam L'Chaveiro. So that's why they were facing each other. Now, I do want to mention that it always bothered me something. I never understood it. Whenever Hanukkah would come, my rabbis, my rabbeim would always tell me how the menorah symbolizes Torah. The menorah symbolizes Torah. Kinemer for Torah are. The menorah always symbolizes Torah. And then it would always creep up me, but I always learned the Aron symbolizes Torah. Which one is it? Is it the Aron symbolizing Torah? Is the menorah symbolizing Torah? How is it both? Obviously it's both, but how? So during the course of working on this Chaburah, I saw how it fits in. The Aron symbolized the Talmid Chacham because it goes on to explain how a person should be, a Talmid Chacham should be like the Aron. So the Aron symbolized the Talmid Chacham, the menorah, and therefore it was hidden and humble and put aside in the Kodesh HaKodashim, because the essence of a Talmid Chacham should be humble, like the wood. He should be humble. He should be, not in the public light as much as possible. He should just focus on his avodah, on his work and his learning. Obviously when he's needed, of course. But the big Gedolim that I was close to, that I looked up to all my life, the Chazanishes and the Steiplers and all the Aaron Leib Steinmans of the world and Rav Shachs of the world, for many Reb Chaim Kanievskis of the world, for many, many years they were hidden from the limelight. They shunned to be out there. But when they had no choice, when Klal Yisrael needed them, they rose to the occasion, which was many years later. I mean, they would answer questions, but politically to get involved, to voice opinions, really not. Because they were taught to be humble, to stay in your Dalet Amot in a way, and when Klal Yisrael is calling, when they need you, then you come out like a lion. So the Aron symbolized the Talmid Chacham. What did the menorah symbolize? The Torah that he gives over. Therefore, they have both elements. You have Torah in both, but one of them is the Talmid Chacham, which is the Aron, and the menorah, which is done publicly, out in the open, is the Torah that he gives over, that he gives out. That is his Torah. Therefore, it could be the menorah is Torah and the Aron is Torah, but two different types of elements. One is focused on the Talmid Chacham, and the other one is focused on his learning and his giving over of Torah. So that was one of the things that I actually wanted to bring down. Now I'm going to tell you an unbelievable thing I saw, actually, and I was zocheh to see it, actually, because I think it was 2 nights ago, actually. I was on a trip with a bunch of my students. We went upstate with like 12 public school kids, and I want to tell you that it was such a kiddush Hashem. The way we brought a Sefer Torah, and we had Rosh Chodesh davening, and for an hour, you have to see, we had 8 students, 2 madrichim, actually 9 students, 2 madrichim, but everyone got an aliyah and a hagba, or a hagba and a galila. So everybody got a kibbud, and they felt like it was their bar mitzvah. I'm telling you now, I took pictures of each one of them by his aliyah, or by his hagba, or his galila, because they really felt unbelievable. So it was just heartwarming just to go there, for the davening alone, for the Shachris, Mincha, and Arvit, but for the Shachris, the Rosh Chodesh, the Hallel, special, so special how they connected. So that was long. So anyway, I was zocheh 2 nights ago. I was actually sitting by the pool watching the kids, and I was tired. I spent the whole day there. I said, you know what, Avram, you're sitting here anyway. You're watching the pool. There's really nothing going on. Maybe take a book. I wasn't the main lifeguard, but I was also there. Besides the lifeguard that we had, I was sitting there making sure nobody gets into arguments or anything. So I said, you know what, Avram, you're tired, but you know what, open up a sefer and learn something. Learn something, prepare for the Chaburah. So I did, and I was zocheh to see this chidush that I'm going to tell you. So basically, there's a Gemara in Shabbos. There's a Gemara in Shabbos that says about the Mishkan, that it says, where is it? It is, let me see, Slamet Aleph Amid Beis. Here it is. Okay, it talks about building the Mishkan, and it says like this. Rabbi Yossi wants to say, I'm going in the middle of a Gemara now, but this is the main point that's going to be mentioned here. Rabbi Yossi, we know that the 39 melachot are, how do we even have the 39 melachot? Because the Mishkan is talked about, then it talks about Shabbat in the Torah. So we learn that the things that were done to build the Mishkan, you can't do on Shabbat. So how do we have the 39 melachot? Any melacha that was done to build the Mishkan or to prepare the Mishkan actually is one of the categories of the 39 melachot, and obviously there are thousands of categories to each one, and understanding it's not so easy, obviously. So it's more than just 39 melachot, but the 39 avos melachos, basic avos, fathers of melachot, and they all are learned from the Mishkan. One of them is called soser. Soser means breaking, destroying, knocking down. So Rabbi Yossi says like this, that soser, amanas livnos, if somebody is soser, in order for it to be considered a malacha, it has to be that you're breaking something down to build. Because breaking something down in itself is not doing anything that's productive. So when you're not doing something productive, it's hard to call it a malacha if you're not doing something productive. Therefore, what's productive? If you're soser amanas livnos, bimkomo, in its place. If you build something, right, that you're going to dismantle, but in the same place you're going to build, then the destroying is not really destroying. It's part of the building. In order to build, you need to get rid of the other thing before. So the destruction is actually part of the building, and the sheet of the whole soisa manas livnos has to be bimkomo, in the same place. And where does he learn it out from? They're learning that from the Mishkan. Because in the Mishkan, that's what they did. So Rabbah asks a question, and he says, but b'Mishkan they didn't do that. It was so samanas shalobim komo, because they kept going from place to place. They never just took down the Mishkan to build something in the same place. They only took it down to build someplace else wherever they're traveling. So really the so samanas livnos is incorrect if it's supposed to be mimkomo, and we learn it from the Mishkan. Again, it can't be so samanas livnos bimkomo, learned from the Mishkan according to Rabbah. Because why? Because it was not bimkomo, it was not in the place. You don't plan on putting it up over there. You plan on traveling and doing it someplace else. So Ula answers, I hear, but he says there's an answer to that in the Mishkan. Because he says, Al pi Hashem yisu, v'al pi Hashem yachnu. This is what he says. That through the mouth of Hashem they traveled, and through the mouth of Hashem they rested. And therefore it was bimkomo, in the same place. So Chaim Shmulevitz asks like this. He says, I don't understand, he says. Where do you see from the words, Al pi Hashem yisu, v'al pi Hashem yachnu, that it would answer bimkomo? How is that bimkomo? So you could answer simply by looking at it that you're listening to the word of Hashem, so it doesn't count. That's not the answer, because it's not bimkomo. You want to learn halacha from it. You want to learn an av from it. You want to learn malacha from it. So it can't be in this, that just because Api Hashem Yisu, oh, Hashem said it, so that's okay. Because we're learning from it. You hear the question? We're learning from it. Okay. So he says an unbelievable thing. And this is a famous little mashal he always used to bring down. He says, if you go to a child in his mother's arms, and you ask that child, a 1-year-old child, 2-year-old child, in his mother's arms, his mother's carrying him, where are you? He's not going to say, I'm in the department store. He's not going to say, I'm in Macy's. He's not going to say, I'm in the American Dream Mall. I'm in my mother's arms. That's what he knows. Where are you? I'm in my mother's arms. The mother goes, let's say, a half hour someplace else around the mall to a different store. You ask him, where are you? I'm in my mother's arms. Therefore, the whole traveling that they did, this is what Ula was saying, the whole traveling was, since they were in the arms of Hashem, then it was always the same place. It was always considered the same place, because they were going with that spirituality, with that ruchnion, with the Alpi Hashem, and therefore that's what Ula meant for Alpi Hashem Yisu, Alpi Hashem Yachnu, that not just because it was the word of Hashem and therefore we have to do it. No, that word of Hashem was teaching us that they were in the arms of their mother, their arms of Hashem, through the whole 40 years in the desert. And he says, and he brings down an unbelievable, somebody, Rav Balfus, I think his name is, he wrote the Lekach Tov, Rav Balfus, I think. He was a Talmud of the Mir Yeshiva. And when, my father actually also was in Shanghai, and my grandfather was in Shanghai, my uncles, my whole father's side was there, and there's many, many stories from Shanghai. But anyway, when the Mir Yeshiva escaped from Germany, they went to Shanghai, and then they were there for a few years, and then they traveled to America. When they were traveling to America, it was a few-week trip. It was a few weeks, I don't know, maybe a month, 3-4 weeks. It was a very long trip that it took to get to America from Shanghai. So when they were on the boat, Rabbi Balfus, who wrote the Lekach Tov, who was a Talmud of the Mir Yeshiva, was once standing next to Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, who was on the dock, not on the dock, on the front of the boat, next to the railings. The boat was going, and he was learning, he was writing. So Reb Balfus was looking over the railing at the ocean, and they'd been there for weeks already, and he was getting tired or a little bit from the whole trip. So he asked Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, Avu Zenenmir, where are we? Where are we? So Reb Chaim actually wrote a sefer on that boat called Kuntras Hasfina. He wrote a sefer on that boat based on the Shav Shmaitza, and it's called Kuntras Hasfina, my collections of writings on the boat. So he asked him, Reb Balfus asked him, Reb Chaim, where are we? Because he meant, where are we in the ocean? So Reb Chaim says, Mehalten by Shmaitza Gimel. We're holding by Shmaitza Gimel. In other words, he wasn't focused on where they were physically. He was holding by Shmaitza Gimel. So he thought he was asking, where are you holding? He goes, I'm holding by Shmaitza Gimel. And he wants to bring down this to this maimer from Reb Chaim, that you could be living in this world, but if you're living al pi Hashem Yisuv, al pi Hashem Yachnu, you're in a different world. You're not in the same world. You could be in one place, but you're really not in that place. You're in the hands of your mother. You're in the hands of Hashem. We must learn that we have to learn to throw our packages. The Chafetz Chaim, I'll end with this, says on the pasuk in Tehillim, it says, Hashlech al Hashem Yehavcha, throw on Hashem your burdens, v'hu yichalk alecha, and He will sustain you. Throw on Hashem your burdens, and He will sustain you. Which means, throw on Hashem all your worries, your concerns, your fears, things that bother you, and Hashem will take care of you. So the Chafetz Chaim brings a mashal. He says, in the olden days when people would travel from city to city, not everybody had a horse and buggy or a horse and carriage. So how did they get from city to city? At times they would wait outside the city that they're in. They would wait on the road, and if a horse carriage would pass by, they would say, where are you going? Can you give me a lift to so-and-so on the way? So they'd get a lift. This guy had like 5-6 packages. He's standing there with all his suitcases, holding them on. And the guy says, he sees this carriage, where are you going? We're going two towns down. I'm going to the next town. The guy with the packages says, can I get a lift? Sure. Gets on the horse, the carriage, and they're going. 10 minutes into the ride, the driver turns around and he sees the guy still sitting there with all the packages, the suitcases on him, like he's trying to get onto a plane with 5 suitcases when you're only allowed 2. That look that you have, you carry 4 different bags and 5 different small things all around you to make up for suitcases. So basically he saw this guy sitting with all these packages. So he tells him, says, I don't understand you. It's not costing you any more money. I'm anyway taking you to the destination. Put down your suitcases. There's no extra charge to carry your suitcases. It's not going to cost you more if you put them down. So he says the same thing, the Chafetz Chaim, that Hashem is the one that leads us. He's the Baal HaGolah. He's that horse driver. He's the one that's taking on the road, the path that we have to go. Why should we needlessly carry packages that we don't have to carry? Put down your burdens, put down your sufferings, put down your questions, and just trust the process, trust Hashem. Trust the process. Hashem is taking you where you need to go. So I want to wish you all a good week, a special week, but learn from this Parsha that every detail that was made for the Mishkan had obviously ruchnias dika cheshbanot. There's every little detail had a cheshbon. Why it had to be this? Why it had to be this? Why this? It says the Aron was a miracle that it didn't take up any space. There's a lot of ruchnias that you get when you learn about the building of the Mishkan and the big day Kohen Gadol, why it was the way it is. So take advantage. Take out a Medrash says, take out a Me'am Laws, take out a Medrash, take out a Gemara that talks about all the Gemara Shabbos talks about this a lot, and learn about the Mishkan. And we should be Zoicha because of this to actually be in Eretz Yisrael and build the third Beit HaMikdash where we can bring the Karbanot and we can serve Hashem the way we're meant to serve Him. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.